We're officially over the halfway mark of the election campaign. All five main party leaders preparing to face off in two debates in French and English this week. Mark Carney has been off the campaign trail this weekend, prompting Pierre Poilievre and Yves-François Blanchet of hiding or quote, wanting a free ride. And that's where we will start on this Sunday's election panel. Arif Virani is a former Liberal cabinet minister, former Justice Minister. James Moore, a former Conservative cabinet minister. And Kennedy Stewart, a former NDP MP and former mayor of Vancouver. Nice to see you all again. Arif Virani, I'm going to start with you. There has been criticism, again, just there from the Conservative leader that Mr. Carney is not on the campaign trail, not taking questions, not out there speaking to Canadians. Do you think that that matters, or do you know what Mr. Carney is up to over the past couple of days?
Well, Rosemary, I want to say hello, and I'm from the confines of my home today, so no basketball gymnasium in the background. But nice to see James and nice to see Kennedy. In terms of sort of what Mr. Carney's doing, I think it's important to understand this is a marathon, not a sprint. Mr. Carney takes very seriously his role as leader of the party, his role as prime minister. Obviously, he's having to play both roles in real time at various points in this campaign. And Mr. Carney is engaging with voters right across the country. I think it is telling that since we last spoke, he's been spending time in different parts of the country, actually, whereas we've seen Mr. Poilievre in places like Alberta and Mr. Singh in places like his own riding in BC. We've seen Mr. Carney in places like Saskatoon, where we have the possibility of potentially gaining seats. And I think that's a sign of sort of campaign strength. While not taking anything for granted, we know that there's still 2 weeks left, but it's important that we are looking to expand the base and not just preserve sort of current Liberal holds.
I mean, any campaign, you can run your campaign however you want. You can take a down day, you can take a day to debate prep or whatever Mr. Carney might be doing. He also talked to the Secretary General of NATO yesterday, James Moore, and Pierre Poilievre's taking a different tack. I don't think he's taking a day off, frankly. He was out with policy yesterday, he's out again today, and then heading to Montreal. Do you think his criticism of Mr. Carney is fair, that he's stepping off the campaign trail? I mean, that's a choice that he can make.
It's a jab to throw, and so you throw the jab. And it's just the way it is, right? If roles were reversed, the Liberals would be saying, where's the Conservative leader? It's fine. But look, Pierre Poilievre is, he has high energy. His campaign is, full of force. He doesn't stop. He's been that way for years. That's the way Pierre Poilievre is. He's the Energizer Bunny. He doesn't stop campaigning, doesn't stop pushing, doesn't stop communicating. It's the way it is. And to juxtapose that, I suppose, is a fair criticism for the audience that wants to hear it, and to say, I'm out here pushing every day. We can't take a day off from Donald Trump. It's a jab to throw, so you throw it.
What do you make, Kennedy Stewart, of part of what Mr. Virani said there, that Jagmeet Singh did go to his own riding? I mean, you do have to do that to show your face, but there are questions about whether he can hold that riding. And then back up in Northern Ontario today at a place where normally those seats, too, would be fairly safe for the NDP, and maybe not so much this time around.
I do think, though, that Mr. Singh could play a key role if there is a minority government. I really think that's really where the NDP are putting their cards right now.
Yeah.
I was thinking what would happen to all leaders after the election, and I think if Mr. Poilievre doesn't secure a majority, he's in deep trouble. Mr. Carney's probably okay no matter what happens, and Mr. Singh really needs to have a minority government and hold the balance of power, or he'll be in trouble, I think, as a leader post-election.
Are you surprised, Kennedy Stewart, that he didn't shift that strategy sooner? That's really only the past week where he's been openly making that case. And I wonder if he had started with that, whether he would be in a stronger position now.
Well, the beginning of this election was so strange that I think all parties were trying to find their feet early on. And, it's been a tradition. I remember introducing Jack Layton in 2004 saying, the next Prime Minister of Canada. So it is kind of something the NDP has done every election. But I do respect Mr. Singh for changing now and focusing on his incumbents, trying to save their seats as well as his own.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the debates this week, because that's potentially an important moment. James Moore wrote an op-ed for our competitors about that. And I think you said, James, that it could be an important moment, but doesn't necessarily have to be. How important do you think the debates are going to be in this particular race?
I mean, like, hard to say. They get hyped up in every election campaign. 19 times out of 20, they're kind of non-events. All they do is animate the base and the audiences that were already prone to and predisposed to vote for one candidate or the other. I think they're typically overhyped. And this one, the two debates are going to be this week. Then we're going to go into Easter weekend, Good Friday, where it'll be kind of, I think, probably a bit of a wash on the whole exercise, and people will get back to what matters most, which is connecting with their families and actually having a heart-to-heart with their families about who they want to see as the next prime minister, which is, I think, where the vote will probably crystallize. So there's 7 days left, I think, in this campaign. But big moments can happen in leaders' debates. My criticism is that, leaders' debates, showcase a capacity to communicate, to be quick on your feet, to be snappy, and to push back. I don't want a prime minister who's snappy and quick on their feet, who pushes back. I want a prime minister who's deliberative and thoughtful and smart and consults and has empathy and gets good advice and thinks about it and then measures and engages appropriately. So the skills of being a great debater are not the skills of being a great prime minister, but it's a Hollywood event in every election campaign. Sometimes people can screw up. Sometimes people can accelerate and surprise. But typically it'll just sort of reinforce the preconceived perceptions of each person.
Okay, well, we'll all be watching anyway, even despite that bad teaser there by James. Sure. Arif Virani, how important do you think it is for this campaign? Because sometimes, debates are the moment where the electorate checks in. I think the electorate is very checked in throughout this debate, but it will be a test for your leader, for the Liberal leader, because he will certainly be the one who's most attacked. His French will be watched carefully because that is not his strongest suit. So is he the one who has the most to lose in these two debates, I guess?
Well, a few things there, Rosie. So I think undoubtedly the French debate carries more significance for Mark Carney and the Liberal team than the English one does. But I think the fact that the expectations are lower because he's not a seasoned politician, he's not been in the House of Commons, etc. I think
just to be clear, my expectations aren't lower. My expectations are not lower.
Fair enough. But I think you've got a situation where Pierre Poilievre is known for rhetorical flourishes. Sometimes he's also known for three-word slogans, and I think that's starting to wane on the electorate, because what you're seeing, to build on James's point, is that if people want a thoughtful, measured, mature adult response to an existential threat to the country, I think that's why you're seeing them gravitate towards a person of Mr. Carney's caliber. And I think what you're going to find probably is that he might actually do something shocking, as in answer a few of the questions on the two debates. And he might actually present sort of some thoughtful, sort of reasoned analysis. And that's not what Poilievre will be trying to do, nor what any of the other leaders will be trying to do. They'll be trying to do that standard thing with getting in their jabs, getting in their little sound bites. Mark Carney has not built the campaign on that. He's not built a career on that. And thus far, that's been working to his benefit, because people are looking at his resume, his background, his credentials, and they're saying, well, that looks like a person who knows how to steward the economy. And I think that will help both in the French debate and in the English. And I'll say to you, as somebody whose French is not my mother tongue, people would often say to me, you're actually better in French because your vocabulary breadth is not as wide, so you stick more to the point and you're more thoughtful and careful. And I think you may see some of that, Mark Carney, which is going to actually just attract more Francophone voters, not detract them.
Okay, that's interesting. Kennedy Stewart, I heard you chuckling along there when I said that my expectations weren't low. I mean, Mr. Carney, this isn't someone who's just arrived in the public sphere. I agree that he doesn't probably have the same rhetoric as rhetorical flair, I think is what you called for Mr. Poilievre. But he certainly is a public speaker and knows how to do some of this. So I wonder how important you think it is for him, but also for Jagmeet Singh, because there could be a moment there. There certainly has been for the Bloc leader in the past. There is a moment to push through and get some attention.
Yeah, I agree with James that debates don't often matter, except we had a very consequential one last year, which knocked Joe Biden out as the candidate for the Democrats. So they can matter if you screw it up. The other thing, I was geeking out and reading political science literature yesterday, and debates don't matter in terms of turnout. It doesn't really boost turnout. They don't help people change their minds. But what they really do, which is valuable, is inform people about the candidates. Like they get information they wouldn't normally get. So that in itself is valuable. In terms of Jagmeet, though, I do think people will learn more about him. He has way less exposure than the other candidates. Doesn't have the same amount of money to advertise that type of thing. So it is an opportunity for him to showcase and maybe get a few licks in. I mean, Jack Layton was famous for that. Thomas Mulcair was a great debater. So I think he has, and he's a lawyer, a prosecutor, right? So he also has some chops. So I'm looking forward to that, but I don't expect any swing in the polls or any increases in the voting booths because of them.
Just last word to you, James Moore, on how Mr. Poilievre, does what he does very well without being too aggressive or turning people off. That's kind of the line I think that might be difficult for him this week.
There's a communication sweet spot for everybody, right? If you come in a little too hot, then you push people away. If you come in insufficiently animated, people think maybe you don't quite care about your message. I'll tell you this: Pierre Poilievre has been waiting his whole life for this moment. In a real and like in an earnest and a sincere way. This moment where he can step onto a stage and tell Canadians and look them straight to the camera and straight to their heart and say, it would be my honor to be your prime minister, and here's why. And I think he'll land his moment. Pierre Poilievre is one of the most impressive political communicators I've ever seen. And he knows the audience that he wants to pitch to. He has a sincere message. He's got a lot of energy, and he's a fantastic communicator to the audience that's open to his message. And I think he'll do very, very well.
That's the part, though, that's hard. The audience that's open to his message, right? And that's the part where he has to try and find who those people are right now. Listen, I love that Kennedy Stewart admitted to reading political science books ahead of this panel. Yeah, that's good preparation. Thank you all. Nice to see you all. Arif Virani, James Moore, Kennedy Stewart. Thanks to the fellows on the West Coast in particular for getting up early. Appreciate that.